Hey everyone, we came in the middle of this
Honest to God,
exchange
he really,
between.
I can't get over it because Andrew Yang, he's lovely. Rokan, he's lovely. They are not negotiating this situation. They have no idea of the particulars. They have no idea of what the language is here. I didn't come over here to have, so you're the apologist for the Obama, excuse me, God forbid.
Madam Speaker,
Thank God for
I'm not an
Barack
apologist.
Obama.
I'm asking you serious questions because so many people
I'm
are in
saying to
desperate
you,
need
if we-
right now. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
When was the last time?
Let me respond to
Well,
you.
let me
If
ask
you're
you,
gonna
when was the
answer
last
your
time,
own
Madam
question.
Speaker, when was the last time you spoke with the President about this?
I don't speak in front of speak
Why
with
not? Why
his
not call him?
representative.
Why not call him and say, Mr. President, let's work out a deal. It's not going to be everything you want. It's not going to be everything I want. But there are so many Americans right now who are in desperate need. Let's make a deal.
What makes me amused, if it weren't so sad, is how you all think that you know more about the suffering of the American people than those of us who are elected by them to represent them at that table. It is unfortunate that we do not have shared values with this White House and that they have in their bill, why don't you talk about in their bill, a tax break for the wealthiest families in the country while they cut out the earned income tax credit for the poorest families in our country and the poorest children in our country. That we have to fight with them to get them to address the coronavirus crisis because they had said it was a hoax, it was magical, it was a miracle, it's going to cure it. It hasn't. And that's why we find ourselves in this situation. I feel very confident about the knowledge that I bring to this, but more importantly, the knowledge that our chairs of jurisdiction, science-based, academically documented, institutionally suggested in terms of what the cost would be to do it and to do it that way. And about, say, we talk about child care, yes. We're talking about safety in the workplace. Safety in the workplace. That's a very important issue, especially in the time of the pandemic. So what I say to those people is, we're going to get a deal. And when we do, it will be retroactive. It will be retroactive.
Here's what you wrote in a letter to House Democrats, Madam Speaker, and I ask these questions only, as you know, so many millions of Americans are suffering
But you
right
quote
now.
two people who know nothing about the agreement.
Well,
There is no agreement, but what the suggestions are, as if there's some authority on the subject. Please, give equal weight to all of the chairmen of the committee who have written this bill.
But so many of your fellow Democrats in the House, they want a deal right now.
No, that isn't.
The problem solvers, they all want a deal right now.
Yeah.
And here's what they're complaining about, because you wrote a letter to House Democrats and you said this. Let me read a line from the letter you wrote. The president only wants his name on a check to go out before election day and for the market to go up. Is that what this is all about? Not allow the president to take credit if there's a deal that will help millions of Americans right now?
He's not that important, but let me say this. With all due respect, and you know we've known each other a long time, you really don't know what you're talking about. If the plural of anecdote is not data, yes, there's some people who said this or that. Overwhelmingly, my caucus wants what is right for the American people. Overwhelmingly, our chairman who wrote the bill, read their statements. They all put out their own statements when they saw what the White House was proposing. So do a service to the issue and have some level of respect for the people who have worked on these issues, written the bill to begin with. Now let me just say this in terms of the numbers. I want people to do the math. We had 3.4, which would meet the needs of the American people for a sustained period of time, so that there was some certainty in what would happen. The Republicans said no, well, so we took it down $1 trillion by cutting the time. We took it down another $200 billion, so we're now $1.200 billion down. We came down to 2.2. At the same time, since tomorrow will be 5 months since we passed the bill, at the same time, because there was no resolution, Mitch McConnell said, let's pause. The virus didn't pause, and now we're at a place where we need more money. We need more money for PPP, for our small businesses. We need more money for our airlines. We need more money for our schools. So we have absorbed nearly $500 billion more of expenses still within the 2.2.
I understand all of that, and I have only the greatest respect for you.
So do the math.
Madam Speaker, I have only the greatest respect for you. I just want to point out, though, $1.8 trillion. $1.8 trillion is a lot of money. The American people need that money ASAP because they're suffering right now. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but I'm saying...
And you don't care how it's spent.
I care, of course, how it's spent. But what I don't understand is why not talk to the president personally, call him up and say, Mr. President, let's get a deal tomorrow.
Look, let me say this. The president has sent Mr. Mnuchin to negotiate. That's what we've done with other presidents. This isn't unusual. With President Bush, we did this quite a bit because that's how you negotiate. And then you take it to the president. Mr. Mnuchin, I think he has integrity representing his position. May I finish, please? But he has integrity representing his position, but his position has no integrity. They do not share our values. Have a little respect for the fact that we know something about these subjects. And there's a big difference between Democrats and Republicans in whether they want to give a big tax cut to the wealthiest people in the country in their bill, in the CARES Act. We tried to take it out in this bill. Instead, they took out earned income tax credit, child tax credit, expanded health benefits to UI benefits to the extent that it was agreed to before. Right. So this is, I have every confidence in and the arguments that we make because it's based on science and documentation. Our chairs know their stuff. They know what they're doing, with all due respect to the kind of people you were referencing. And I welcome their enthusiasm. I welcome their interest. I welcome their originality of their thinking. But the fact is, we have a responsibility to meet the needs of the American people in a retroactive way, so they're not at a total loss. They are at a loss because the president has ignored the virus. I wish he would spend time on the fact that if he had not ignored the virus, we wouldn't be in the position we're in, but we are. And let me say about that also, I hope that, I'm pleased that these pharmaceutical companies are taking the responsible position to halt and hopefully then resume. Because we want the public to have confidence in whatever therapies or whatever vaccines come along, that they will take them. Right. And to people who say, well, I don't trust Trump on that, if we trust the Food and Drug Administration for what they are doing, the scientists there have been working 24/7 for months and months and months, excellent science. The science should call the shot, and when they do, we should all trust it.
And let's hope they get more treatments. Let's hope they get a vaccine. And Madam Speaker, I certainly respect you, but I also respect Ro Khanna. I respect Andrew Yang. I respect members of the Democrats who are members of the problem solvers. They want a deal because so many people right now
are the problem solvers, by the way, don't have any earned income tax credit or child tax credit in their proposal either. But let's not go into that. You evidently do not respect the chairman of the committees who wrote these bills.
I respect
and
all of you.
I wish you would respect the knowledge that goes into getting meeting the needs of the American people. But again, you've been on JAG defending the administration all this time with no knowledge of the difference between our two bills, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to say that to you in person.
Madam Speaker, these are incredibly difficult times right now, and we'll leave it on that note. Thank you so much for joining us.
We'll leave it on the vote that you are not right on this, Wolf, and I hate to say that to you, but I feel confident about it, and I feel confident about my colleagues, and I feel confidence in my chairs.
And it's not about me, it's about millions of Americans who can't put food on the table, who can't pay the rent.
And we represent them, and we represent them, and we represent them.
These long food lines that we're seeing. I know you are.
We know them.
I'm just saying.
We represent them, and we know them.
As we say.
We know them. We represent them.
Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, as they say.
It is nowhere near perfect.
Madam Speaker.
Always the case, but we're not even close to the good.
All right, let's see what happens, because every day is critically, critically important. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for your sensitivity to our constituents' needs.
I am sensitive to them because I see them on the street begging for food, begging for money. Madam Speaker, thank you so much.
Have you fed them? We feed them. We feed them.
We'll continue this conversation down the road for sure. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Well, folks, I have to say that the one thing that I got out of that, what'd you think of that, Mom?
Oh, I was shocked that CNN did that to her. I was shocked. That's about all I can think of, because I don't know. They're not letting us know how the American people are really doing. There must be people really having a hard time.
No, there are. And as I've said before, everybody thinks everybody else has money. And yet, Lawrence Summers, who was a chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors under George W. Bush, I believe. No, President Clinton. And no, I'm sorry. A number of presidents. He also was head of the Treasury. Released a study along with another economist that said that by the time we overcome the pandemic, we will have lost as a country $16 trillion. That's the amount of money it's taking to supply people to keep themselves going via, for example, their businesses, for example, the PPP program or special $1,200 checks and other measures, and then lost wealth due to health care from the coronavirus. And we're not, to borrow California Governor Gavin Newsom's phrase, meeting the moment of solving the problem. And there's a lot of politicking going on. And so what Blitzer is saying, I have to agree with. Right now, we don't have a Democratic-controlled Congress. We have a Democratic-controlled House, but not a Democratic-controlled Senate. And as long as that's the case, and you have a Republican president, you get what you get. And so in the middle of a pandemic, I do think we should sort of cut our losses and get something done on behalf of a greater good, but remind people of what we could have had if we had 4 more seats in the Senate, for example. Voting matters, and voting matters. But I don't think that anybody in Washington should take their sweet time trying to negotiate minutia when people are in trouble. And that's all Wolf Blitzer's saying, and I'm inclined to agree with him. So nothing against Speaker Pelosi, who I love, but we are in trouble. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. Well, in fact, what Larry Summers calculated, and I'll get the copy and dive more into it, was that this situation we're in is 4 times worse than the Great Depression.